last episode, you guys saw me take the engine out of the car to put the new one in. Now we're gonna do the radiator upgrade for Mishimoto just because there's more room in here and it's just easier to take all this stuff out. And then we'll be styling and ready to put this new motor back in. We just got our Mishimoto replacement radiator. This is an OEM replacement that is upgraded, it's better cooling, and it's gonna keep the temps down on a new engine that we're putting in. So that's basically the biggest reason to install this is because we're gonna be driving on dirt. There's gonna be a lot higher RPMs, which is gonna create more heat in the engine, and we definitely don't wanna damage the new motor. So Mishimoto is gonna help us keep our engine coolant temps down. Let's put her in. Now we are gonna retain AC as of right now. It's gonna be hot out in the desert, dude, when we're running these things hard as hell. I'm trying to stay cool. Unless I crack a line, then we'll just take it out. If you haven't realized, it's a scorcher out here. That's it, boys. We are done, kind of.
Where's the engine?
It's right there, dude. The engine's right over there. All right, that's going in soon. We're just waiting on the clutch to show up. We'll do the clutch install, and then the motor can go in, all right?
Goodwood Festival of Speed. We are here day one. It's Thursday. We got invited to a very special Top 25. It's a festival run that Lord March invited us to. We have the insanely impressive Celica from Rob Millen. Rob Millen's gonna be running this thing up the hill. He's got one of the fastest times here. James Dean, of course, in his R7. Dean brought out his Viper supercharged, and we got everything down to Martini rally cars and all kinds of old school open wheel cars and back GTR. But yeah, this is a hand-picked batch. I do say that drifting is one of the most entertaining aspects of Goodwood, so happy to be a part of it. The hill is insane, super fast, super tight. Car's running awesome. So we got a lot of gnarly cars in our group.
Here is our new-ish motor that's gonna go in the 25K build-off FRS. This is actually the original motor from the GT4586. We know it's a known good motor. Hopefully it is a known good motor because I don't want to do another swap. So I've been waiting to put this engine in the car because I want to do the clutch while it's out. It's obviously a lot easier to get to all the bolts on the transmission and install this clutch when it's out of the car. It's just easier. You have more room. You can work with your hands a lot easier. You're maybe not slipping wrenches and cutting knuckles. So I'm probably gonna do that anyway, but that's why I left the motor out of the car to help alleviate that a little bit. We have a brand new clutch from ACT, complete unit with a lightweight flywheel, so we're gonna get a little bit of performance out of the engine with the lightweight flywheel, quicker revs, and then a lot more clamping force and some better clutch kicks, some hard hitting drivetrain shock with the higher sprung pressure plate and disc from ACT. It'll hold more power, it's gonna last a lot longer, and it's gonna feel a lot better trying to drive this thing on dirt, street, you know, asphalt, anything. And today we are gonna do more of a step-by-step guide to replacing your clutch. Step one, remove all of the transmission bolts from the bell housing so that you can remove the transmission. I actually already did this before we started filming, so we're just gonna pull the transmission off right now, and that'll be step one. Next, we're gonna remove all the bolts from the pressure plate and then remove the pressure plate and the disc. And I'm anxious to see what kind of condition this thing's actually in. Once the pressure plate and disc are off the car, next up is the flywheel. And these bolts are probably pretty high torque rating, so you're gonna want a nice cordless impact or a pneumatic impact to be able to get those off. This one should be able to do it. And it does! All right, that's all off. So let's check out what ACT sent and kind of go through the parts in the package that it comes with a full ACT clutch kit. And this is the beautiful boxing that comes with your brand new clutch kit and the lightweight flywheel from ACT. So we're just gonna pop this off and open this up. Let's get to the goods. Directions. You're gonna wanna go through this because you do want to find out what the torque specs are for the pressure plate before you're done. And obviously you wanna throw some ACT stickers on your car to show some support. We'll get to this later, but this is the clutch alignment tool. And this is something that you don't wanna screw up or it's gonna ruin your day. Here is the brand new pressure plate, the sprung disc, and the lightweight flywheel that already has the brand new pilot bearing installed, which is awesome, so we don't have to do that. So you can clearly see how much thinner the ACT flywheel is compared to the OEM one. And this thing, I mean, just picking it up, this is ridiculously light compared to the OEM one. The first thing we're gonna do before installing the lightweight flywheel from ACT is just spray a little brake cleaner on this rag and then wipe down a little bit of the factory oil lubricant that is on here because you don't want to break it in with that oil on it. After you give it a little wipe down, everything's ready to go. We're just gonna pop it on here. Hopefully I nail it, yep. Get the bolt holes lined up. And then this kit actually comes with its own hardware from ACT, which is really neat. So these actually replace the factory hardware with some nice high-grade Allen bolts. I usually put some thread locker on these, not a lot, just a little dab, and then just crank them down to specified torque specs. All right, this is our heavy-duty pressure plate, and the same thing that we did with the flywheel. It comes with a little bit of oil surface on here, so we're just gonna clean it up with some parts cleaner. So this is some grease that comes with the ACT clutch kit. It's actually used to grease a couple different things. First thing you wanna do before you put the disc and pressure plate on is just put a little bit of grease on the pilot bearing. This is what the transmission is gonna slide into. When you're trying to get it's actually a pretty tight fit, so when you're sliding the shaft in there, you want to just have a little bit of lubrication so it doesn't, so it just helps it slide in a lot easier. Now this is one of those tools that you don't want to forget about. This is the clutch alignment tool, which is going to align the disc on the flywheel when you so that when you bolt the pressure plate on, it's going to keep it in the same position as if you're putting the transmission on. So this actually acts as the input shaft on your transmission to hold the clutch disc in the same location so that when you slide the transmission on, you have no issues. If you don't utilize this clutch alignment tool properly, then and this disc is kind of like half sliding out or sagging or something, then you're gonna have a hell of a time trying to get your transmission on because the splines are not gonna line up and it's gonna ruin your day. So the easiest thing to do is just remember to use this and make sure that it is installed properly as you're torquing and tightening up the pressure plate onto the clutch disc. Simple as that. When you're aligning the pressure plate, there's gonna be studs in the flywheel, and there's multiple different holes on the pressure plate. You just wanna make sure you find the right one, that they all sync together, and you can get the bolts in all the holes. Now ACT also supplies hardware for the pressure plate, which is nice. Now I'm just gonna go around and tighten up these bolts all evenly, so that puts an even amount of pressure on the clutch disc. So we'll just do a little bit at a time before we break out the torque wrench and torque these things down properly. We're gonna set the torque wrench to the specs in the instructions from ACT. and tighten this baby up. All right, everything's all torqued up and ready to go. So we'll just pull out, this should be nice and free. You should be able to pull it out nice and easy. That means the transmission input shaft should be able to slide right in there and make your life a heck of a lot easier. At this point, you're at the home stretch, but it also can be the most frustrating part because if the input shaft doesn't line up with the splines on the clutch disc and also slide into the pilot bearing, then your life is kind of going hell and makes things a lot more difficult. So the engine's at a little bit of an angle here. We'll see if this thing wants to slide on and make our lives easier or not. Also, this should be a two-man job, and there's only one of me right now. Good thing I've been doing CrossFit, dude. All right, sometimes if the transmission's going in hard, you can use the drive shaft. Slide that in, put it in gear, and then as you're trying to get the transmission slid on, you can kind of move it a little bit. It'll spin the input shaft to help line up the splines with the clutch disc and hopefully go on. We got Thad here. This is a two-man job, like I said. Thanks for coming in, dude. Thad is going to work the drive shaft while I am trying to push the transmission into place. We'll see if it works. There it is, baby. Good. And that's it, man. Now you put the bolts in, tighten up the transmission, and we're done. Thanks for the help, dude.
Yeah, no worries.
Sometimes when you're installing and also taking an engine out, something's gonna get damaged. And this fitting here was one of the original fittings off the back of the fuel rail. If you know a GT86 and you're putting a 2JZ in it, you know it's extremely close to the firewall, and this thing bounced off a couple times, so you can see it's pretty hammered and dinged up. So it's perfect time to take it off and replace it with a nice vibrant piece. I have a lot of old fittings on this car, so I've been slowly kind of going through and replacing it with all the vibrant stuff that's better quality and lasts longer. And actually what's really cool is Vibrant sells these soft jaws that have all these angles in them so that you can put the fittings right in here so you don't have to use two wrenches. It makes things a lot easier right in the vise, and you can just tighten it right up. Not really have any issues with, you can see this one actually has a little bit of wear on it, so a lot of that will, you won't scratch your brand new fitting nearly as hard as you would if you didn't have these soft jaws. There we go. Fuel line that is not damaged should go on a lot easier. Doesn't have a kink in it, so we get proper fuel pressure. This is where it goes. The back of the fuel rail is really close to the firewall in this fitting, so it's really susceptible to being damaged, especially when you're lifting the engine out and it pops out of the engine mounts. You know, the engine can kind of sway, so you really want extra help when you're doing that so that this doesn't happen. Clearly, I was alone a couple times, and that's why the other fitting was damaged. The fitting was about 4 or 5 years old, so it was time to be replaced anyways. So we'll get this tightened up and be ready to rock. Hopefully I did everything properly. Lives again. We got a brand new ACT clutch and flywheel in there. I used a bunch of Permatex sealant to seal some leaks in the transmission and engine oil pan, and then some new Wisefab arms. Next up, the car is getting a custom paint job, a ornamental conifer right here at Race Service. Then it heads to the East Coast for Tuner Evolution in Philadelphia, then south for Grid Life, Road Atlanta. It's gonna be awesome. putting the finishing touches on the street car here. Kind of running out of time, so I needed to get the engine in the Baja car. So Micah was #1 pick, dude. He's used to working on a lot of high-end cars, expensive cars. He should be able to knock this out, no problem.
I gotta be honest, it's like the easiest motor transmission drop I've ever done. Super light, sat right down in the mounts, but yeah, it was pretty cake.
This is very important in all drift cars, but especially rally cars. You want to have strong suspension because we're going to be off-road, we're going to be jumping, we're going to be hitting bumps, and the first thing that you'll notice is that a real spongy, sloppy suspension, you're just going to blow those bushings out. So now we have an adjustable control arm, and this is the beauty of an arm that it's replacing. So, as you can see, so we can replace that arm with this arm. Now, why wouldn't you want to do that? The relation from the fork to the heim isn't always a straight line. In the heim, you get a little misalignment between the bushing and where it bottoms out into the main housing. And so you want to make sure that it is lined up the right way so that when you're going through the travel, you don't have this bottomed out, and it will then loosen this bolt because it will actually twist that heim. We've all seen videos of cars with their wheels flopping around and or falling off. No one wants to be that guy. It's best to invest in quality control arms. Do yourself a favor, put the extra couple bucks in. These will last longer and you will prevent yourself from running into a stupid mistake. Now on this arm, you always want to put the bolts in front to back so that any debris that's coming in this way isn't screwing up your threads, so you can get that nut off. Lastly, in the rear, there is the traction arm. So this arm looks a little different because it's very beefy. It's got a much bigger end than the toe and the camber arm because it has to fit over a big bushing on the front of the subframe. It also takes a lot more force because this arm is more of a tension arm than it is a locating arm. So there's a lot of driving force being pulled on this arm at all times. Next up is our Voodoo 13 front upper control arm. What you got here is a double adjustable heim setup. This heim threads into this boss threads into this arm, and then you have this little hex in the end so that when this is in the car, you can actually adjust it without taking the arm off, spinning this by hand, putting it back in the car, as some other companies make you do. Things are super easy to install. One thing you got to keep in mind is that they actually have different size spacers on the inside and outside. That's so that the adjustment is a little more inboard. You can see a fatter spacer on the outside, brings it off this edge, no contact. And then you just go ahead and swing this guy back into place. It's got this nice machined taper insert. It's got a little flat on there so you can grab it with a wrench so that you can tighten it down properly. Then you can make your adjustments, like I was saying, from the outside of the car, right through here, boom, boom. Same thing about thread engagement. There's a lot more thread engagement on this big sleeve. So I gave about 10mm spacing on the left and right side so that we have the same overall engagement in the diameter versus the length from the heim to the threaded insert. That's it for now. We're going to leave everything loose, adjustment-wise, like I said. All the ends are tight, inside and outside, but all the arms are loose so we can dial our adjustments in on the ground. Once we get back to ride height, get our overall settings right, then we can do the alignment and you're ready to go. Alignment's pretty much the last thing you do before you hit the track or dirt.
On this episode's Chill Spot, we're here for the open house, 1552. We have Matt, this is one of the owners here. We've been working together since 2013.
It's been a while.
Supplying wheels for all of my cars, which is phenomenal.
Yes, all of them.
And obviously Matt's an awesome dude, so he's down to keep flowing me wheels and supporting the program in an awesome way. But bigger and better things, you guys just opened up this brand new space. This is kind of like kicking things off all over again.
It is.
So I'm happy for you guys, and it's awesome to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, this is the place kind of we've kind of been building on. It's kind of the space we've been looking forward to. So finally we get a space that kind of shows who we are, different, focused on community, focused on guys like you.
Absolutely.
Who are as well focused on community. And yeah, we're excited.
The whole scene's pretty sick down here.
Tons of new fun. So we're stoked to be here, and we're stoked we're now Southern California buddies.
Yeah.
You're super close.
I know.
So we will be ripping up the canyon soon.
In this thing right here.
Ryan will be driving this. You may see this in another episode.
Definitely.
Ryan will learn the limits of an
actual Porsche.
Yeah.
I think I've only driven one Porsche in my lifetime, so let's make it another one. That actually has a little bit of power.
Next week.
All right, done deal.
Yes.
All right, thanks, man. Getting your hands dirty is just a part of working on cars. There's no way around it.
This month's product spotlight is Fast Orange Extreme Hand Cleaner. So what makes Extreme different?
It's the same citrus formulation with a little pumice in it as the original Fast Orange, but with a little petroleum to help get that tough grease and grime.
And it also has lotions and conditioners to keep those beautiful soft hands from drying and cracking.
I got calluses here, guy.
Yeah, right.
Podium, baby. Our first of the year. I hope this is the first for the rest of the season. We took the car off the trailer, had it dialed in 4 laps of Thursday practice, and it's just been phenomenal ever since. Been really consistent. Just a couple small mistakes out there cost us the win, and it is what it is, man. We're gonna sip some champagne and celebrate tonight. So I'm stoked for me and the team and just all the guys that just been working so hard, and just everybody that supports us, all you guys. So I appreciate it, and I'll be spraying that champagne for you guys.
Close one for sure. Honestly, I didn't know what way it was going to go.
Well, it's always a close one, but I made a couple mistakes, and that's pretty much what sent it off. So
you had more speed though. You were fast, and I was struggling to keep on the bank with you, but close one.
It's always a close one. It's always awesome battling you.
Yeah.
But I gotta beat you one of these.
You will, man. I have no doubt. I have no doubt. I'm making some pretty good progress on my 25K rally build. We got a lot of parts installed over the past couple episodes. We did the BC Racing adjustable coilovers. We have the Voodoo adjustable suspension, front and rear. The Vaccaro seats are pretty much installed. I had to make some modifications to the bracket to get a little more headroom. We have the AM intake installed, the Mishimoto radiator, and we are just about ready to sit this thing on our brand new method wheels once our tires come in. Tuerck's made a lot of progress this month. I've been on the road, but he did have to swap out that bogus motor. So I got a Ready to Rock engine in my chassis. So let's see where we're at with those totals. Thanks for watching BlackOut. See you next time.